Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Debra Kruszewski. She is a visionary leader. She empowers women to discover their sole purpose and build a blueprint for success in their careers, relationships, finances, and faith. And she is now a certified life and meditation coach, an energy intuitive, and an international author. Welcome to the show, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me, AJ. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can discover their sole purpose, how they can dream big in whatever they are doing. But before this, Debbie, let's understand a bit about you, your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to, also learn from your journey itself.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my name is Debra Kruszewski. I live in New York. I live right outside of Manhattan. And I came from corporate America. I was always told to get a big corporate job, and that's where all the love and fulfillment would be. And all my dreams would come from there. And so I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and I didn't find any of my dreams there. I felt a lot of dream crushing there for sure. And I used my faith to just pray to God and ask him what I should do and where I should be, because I felt as if I was dying at my last corporate endeavor. And I just heard this strong voice to leave. And as crazy as it sounds, the last time I heard God's voice, I told the voice it was wrong, not realizing it was from God. And once I realized that, I said, God, if you speak to me like that again, I will do whatever it is that you tell me. So I heard the voice. I left my job. I wrote 3 books in 9 months. And I realized that writing was really an exercise for myself to do some healing. I had a lot of healing to do, and a lot of really staying in tune with what my intuition was and what my inside, which again is still voices from God, um, was working within me to help myself. And I realized that my sole purpose of writing stories and all the experience that I have was to help others here on earth find their center purpose that's given to them from God, and really learn how to dig into it and to listen to your intuition and fulfill what your dream is, which is your sole purpose of being here on earth. Everybody likes to call it something else. I call it your dream because I feel like it's something you have this strong desire. It is your sole purpose. I just think it sounds so much more appealing and fun when you say a dream, because it's more than just one thing, because you are more than one thing. And you are here to do so many wonderful things and to live a fulfilled life. So I like to call it the dream.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, Deborah, I want to understand is that talked about God. God is very good. God will always guide us. But in cases like this, in terms of career, should we see the voice of reason, or we should think about somebody, something telling us in our dreams? Maybe we can assume that it's God. It can also not be God, but your own thoughts which are reverberating. How do you analyze which particular path to take, and whether it's really the sole purpose, or is it because you are in a present situation of turmoil, flux, and those are just reverberating within your head? How does that work out on the ground?
Yeah, so that's the everybody's struggle is, are we listening to our ego? Are we listening to the people around us? Are we listening to that anxiety voice inside of us? Or are we really listening to that inner voice that is the truth? So that's where people get stuck. Of the anxiety, the ego really comes through first, and then they look for confirmation in the people around them. And so it's so easy to, disregard the voice that you should be listening to and fall into, I really want the confirmation from other people, and this anxiety is eating at me. That must be the voice that I'm supposed to be listening to. So it's really learning a lot about yourself in this process. And it is a lot of prayer and meditation, of getting within and really deciphering what these voices are and how they sound. Because the voice that sounds like, oh my gosh, you have to do this, and then we all have that voice, right? And that's the voice that drives us so much. And then you have the the kind of obnoxious gaslighting voice that's like, well, oh my gosh, if you don't do that, you know what can happen, all these bad things. Look at it like whenever we want to eat a piece of chocolate cake, so to say, that seems to be a guilty pleasure for so many people. Oh my gosh, if you eat that, oh, you know what's going to happen. You're not going to fit into that dress you have to get into for your party on Saturday. Oh my gosh, you're going to break out in acne. Like all the voices that keep coming out, convincing you to say no. And it's hard when all these voices are so loud and your inside voice, the voice from your heart, is quiet and you can't hear it. And especially when people, scream out like, God, help me do, I need an answer right now. And they don't get it. They fall to what the loud voices are. And you can look at it in many different ways, but the right voice is always talking to you. Sometimes it's not the voice, it's in your actions, it's what you're like, the your reaction to doing something, how you're handling it. It's an inner voice that doesn't always speak. It's helping guide you to the right places. We push ourselves to the wrong places. We're always resisting the goodness of the right choice, because sometimes that's not always the comfortable answer or the popular answer from the people around us. So I help people to really decipher what that voice is and looks like, and how consistently we fall into the wrong path, and how to change it into the right path of getting to your soul purpose.
Right, right, Deborah. A lot of people, you see, we want everything. We want career, we want relationships, finances, faith, everyone. We want to change the world, and we also want the same world to be there if it is profitable and beneficial for us. But you also talk about a blueprint for success. Can we have one blueprint which can include all these things? Or do we have to have several blueprints, perhaps for one blueprint for each of these? Then, how do we get started to walking on this path, which is our sole purpose, which is our success in all these areas? How does that work, Deborah? It can be quite confusing for a simple person like me.
Oh, I'll make it simple. There's no need for it to be confusing. That's the thing. You don't need all these contingency plans. What's made for you, you can't mess up, because God is always guiding you in the right path. And we again tell ourselves these stories of, oh, I'm too old, or it's too late, or I didn't go to the right school, or I wasn't born into the right family, or I don't live in the right place. We tell ourselves these stories that are not true. They are their ego and the outside, to somehow give you comfort, to redirect you to the wrong plan. And the more we're gaslit by these answers, the more we tell ourselves we don't deserve them. And you do deserve it. Your blueprint is already written out for you, and you can't mess it up. I mean, you could try. We do pretty good at trying. I will say that. It's always built for you, and you're always being guided in the right way. You just need to accept it. There's the free will of saying, I don't want that, and resisting the goodness. That's your choice. I choose to listen to the good voice. I choose to listen to God's path for me. And every time I take a wrong turn, I get redirected. And sometimes, you're in this consistency path that feels like insanity, and sometimes you just don't realize that there's something there for you to learn. So it's like the movie Groundhog Day, and the historical day we celebrate each year of the silliness. We're, waiting for this groundhog, and that consistency of like, why are we always in the same place? But how about doing something different? Like, how about changing that cycle? So I teach people how to retrain their mindset to be positive and to look at it in a different direction. So we go through all these cycles in our day. You just look at yourself throughout the day of, okay, I wake up at this time, I get myself ready, I sit at my desk at this time, I get my cup of coffee at this time, I have lunch. You know what your cycle is. But then all of a sudden you start to form these bad habits. It could be, hey, I want to have that piece of chocolate before I have lunch, or, oh, now I crash. I have to get my caffeine hit because I had the sugar early on. So it's learning your cycles and where to break them and how to change your mindset to do something positive instead. So just hitting the nutrition route again of, oh, I just want to have this piece of chocolate before lunch. It ruins your lunch. You don't eat so well. And then all of a sudden, mid afternoon comes and you start to crash. So you instantly go for either something sweet, you go for a high caffeine something, or an energy drink that's all not really good for you. Instead of saying, okay, I realized I did something earlier in the day. I'm going to eat half my lunch and then half later. I know that I need energy now that I have this crash from the sugar. I'm going to eat something that's smart and balanced, that I don't have to lean on more sugar. So I'm going to have an apple that has a lot of high energy in it and can give me the same effect of caffeine. A piece of cheese that's going to be my protein, and maybe a cracker that could be a carb that you need depending on your energy level, and perhaps a piece of meat. Like, there's so many. I like to do prosciutto. I like to do that combination, and that gives you a boost of energy. And you see in your day, oh wow, that really worked, and I had more protein that gives me a lot more energy, and doesn't fill me with sugar that will crash me again later and then ruin my night cycle. So it's looking at simple things that you do every day that change your trajectory of how you react to it, and it changes your mood swings. It changes how you approach things. It gives you more energy. And that's just a nutritional example of how to change cycles within your day.
Right, right, Debbie. So you said that your blueprint is already written. If my blueprint is already written, what is Deborah's role in that blueprint? Because it's written by the Almighty, by someone who is very, very, the Almighty Himself.
Yeah, I can't write one for you. I can't sit here and say, oh, well, I think you should go this way. That would totally not make any sense. I just help you feel within yourself what you think is right for you, what you feel your intuition is for you. One of my famous examples that I learned while I was becoming a life coach was a gentleman that was in his 50s, and he felt his life purpose his was to become a major league ball player. Now we all know that most major league ball players are come from their later teens and their early 20s. They're coming from college, straight either in college or straight from college into the major leagues, maybe a little bit later. I would guess about 25 is a cutoff date to age to get started normally. Now, this man has never played baseball. He's never been on a team, but he feels this calling of, this is what I want to do. This is where I should be in my life. I should be a major ball player. This is what I see in my head. Now, when I learned this parable, I'd like to call it, it was instantly like, this can't happen. So that's ridiculous. Why would you how would you guide him? And I'm like, I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I don't look at it as ridiculous. I look at it, this is this man's dream. He feels his calling to it. There's a way to make it happen. It just might look differently. So we know in our we find in our head things we can relate to and what makes sense to us. So being a major league ball player to him meant a lot of things. It meant, being part of a team, getting quick hits and quick wins, moving around, being in front of an audience, going from city to city, having a season and then having it be over to do other things, and then coming back and constantly trying to get yourself to be the better version of yourself. So, those are all properties that we could take and we can implement into a career. We can implement it into what are things in your life that answer what a major league ball player means. So is it the sport? We went, I stuck with the sports route and I looked at positions and jobs that answered that. So at the end of the day, we found that the best place for him to answer that sole purpose was to be a project manager in the sports world. So he got to work on quick projects that had quick wins, work with a new team every time, have success along the way and have failures along the way, have a job where he's traveling and he's learning and meeting new people all the time. And every new project is a chance to reinvent what you already know and make it better. So, in his eyes, this job was his sole purpose and it was better than what he imagined. And so it's really just digging in deep and you see something and you're like, this is exactly how it has to look. We work together to see what feels right of how we can get you there if it sounds and feels impossible. So I'm just here to guide you with what I know. And I ask God to guide us as well in this journey. Your blueprint is written. It's just sort of like lost in air with Delta luggage somewhere. And I'm not picking on Delta at all, but it's just international that I could think of. You're stuck somewhere in luggage and you don't know where your air tag is. It ran out of juice somewhere. It's just finding it. So I just look at it as a fun adventure, a scavenger hunt, and build all this excitement. And then you find all these other dreams along the way of, wait, I wanted to do that too. Oh, wait, and this, and I forgot. And just looking at it from a different lens and guiding you through your inner intuition, your heart, you really come up with all these other things you also wanted to do, and you see how they all play together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that brings me to your this project called the Dream Pollination Program. Tell us about this program through which you help your clients.
Yeah, so my name in Hebrew is Deborah, and that means the bee seeker. And the Deborah plays a huge role in the Bible as well. So I felt this connection to bees. I actually had an interesting story about I got stung by a bee for the first time like a few weeks ago. And I found out it is a healing property because everyone's like, I thought bees loved you. And I'm like, well, I thought so too. So it does have significance of the bees and pollination. And I am certified as a dream manager. So I try to take that all together of the dream pollinator. So I run various programs, but right now I am focused on the Dream Pollination Project about finding your soul purpose, um, becoming you again, and really focusing on what I'm calling in this four pillars of the Dream Pollination Program: your career, relationships, your finances, and your faith. And in those, really realizing we're so driven in our world by what our career defines us as. And everybody's in a career, even if you don't have a job, if you are a stay home mom, a stay home caretaker, you're seeking what your job should be, you're not employed. Um, Everybody's in some form of a job. And what are you going to do with that? And how does that fill your soul purpose? Some of it is a bridge to get you to the job that's your sole purpose. And so when we're so focused on our career and where we're going to spend the majority of our day, we lose the sight of what we're doing there. We're losing the sight of what we're learning and our purpose of being there, because we're so focused in, I don't want to be in this space, right? So I look at that as a career of your life where you are right now. And by focusing on what the good is in there and where you want to be, it's just helping you continue to find that blueprint of how to get there. And if you're angry and upset with where you are in your life, you're bringing that home, and it's not healthy, and it's ruining your relationships. So if you're bringing home and breeding poor relationships, that's not going to help you feel good or have good confidence in yourself. And so you want to be able to make sure that you are coming home, you are with your significant other, your friends, your children, your family. You want to be the best version of yourself. So you want to have good, healthy relationships. Now, if those two things aren't good, chances are your finances are not in a good place either, because we are driven by what money on a piece of paper can give us and get us. And when we see that we waste a lot of money on junk because we feel like that's going to fulfill the career and the relationship, we end up over surplus in stuff we don't need and under surplus in the money we need for the things we really need, for the money for what we really want and what we really need. And if we have all three of those in a surplus, we lose faith. So once we get the career and the relationship and the finance in order, you see how much faith plays a role into it, and that how you, when you focus and lean on your faith, how the other three things really become so fulfilled and full of abundance. It doesn't matter how many dollars you have in your bank account. The relationships are so important, and how much abundance you get from having healthy relationships. And when you're realizing where you are and your purpose in your life, and fulfilled by, even if it's not where you want to be at this moment, fulfilled by, this is getting me to where I want to be. And by having all four of those together, everything else starts to fall in place. And the secret sauce is to just believe. That's the full secret sauce. And we tell ourselves we don't know how to get there, but you do. And I just want to help guide people to get there as easy as possible, and to really lean into their faith to put everything in place.
Absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Deborah,
Oh,
about all
thank
these
you.
things. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn from you, learn more about you, about your program. So what is the best way for them to do so?
Yes, you could find me via social media. I'm on Instagram at Deb Cruz. On TikTok, it's a little different. It's Debbie Cruz, DebbykRuz. I had a little incident with Instagram, so I had to cut my name short, change my name on there. You can also check me out. I have a bunch of links on my bio site, which you can find in my profile on either one of those sites. It's bio.site/Deb Cruz. And I look forward to connecting with everybody. I will have a master class on November 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, an introduction to the Becoming You section of the Dream Pollination Project.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.